Hi and welcome. Students, if you are tuning in, tell us where you're from during the chat so we can say hello. We have two great universities with us here to talk about the top 5 things to look for when you're looking at universities. So please welcome Tom and Patrick. They're going to introduce themselves. Let me show you some pictures and you can take a screenshot of their details as well so that you can make sure to contact them now or within their booth. Tom and Patrick, welcome.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks, Christy.
I might jump in and just introduce myself quickly. My name is Tom Kufer. I'm the Regional Marketing Director here at Griffith University in Queensland, Australia, and very happy to be here and co-present with you, Patrick.
Thank you, Tom, and yeah, really happy to be here as well. My name's Patrick Kosh. I'm Regional Manager for the Americas at Cardiff University, based in Wales in the UK.
Excellent. We might move to the next slide, Christy. All right, so I'm going to kick off the presentation, but Patrick, jump in if you want to add any further comments. For me, one of the biggest things when looking for a university is firstly to think about your future, to set a goal about where you'd like to be in the next 5 years or so, and then start planning towards that goal. So you may not know exactly where you want to be, but it's important you think about where you might want to be and to follow your passion. So you will be receiving input from family and friends about what to study and where to study. But it's really important that you also take time to think about yourself and your passion, what it is you want to study, because at the end of the day, you'll be the one waking up for those exams, cramming late at night, studying and doing all of the work. So it's really important that you choose something that you enjoy. So the next tip that I have that I think is really important is that you consider all things big and small. So you need to consider the location of the university or universities of your choice or that you're thinking about applying for. You might be looking for a university that is a large public university or a small private university. It's very important that you think about all of the different options that you have available to you. Do you want to live in a coastal city like the Gold Coast where I'm from? Or do you want to live in a big city like New York, for example? Think about that, but also think about the size of the university, the cost. So not only should you be looking at the tuition fees, but also the cost of living. Of course, larger cities may have a higher cost of living in terms of rent, food, telephone, internet, etc. And smaller cities might have a lower cost. So you need to factor that into your budget when you're planning. It's also really important you think about the student community. Make sure you're looking at the university website and have a look at the student community. What sort of things do they do to support international students? And if I can give one example from Griffith University, we have a program called Griffith Mates, where we have over 120 different student leaders who come from a range of different countries and who arrange social activities to help engage new students when they first arrive. Of course, with COVID, we have a lot of students that are studying online from offshore, and we've transitioned a number of those activities to be virtual for students both that are Griffith Mates that are offshore, but also for new students that are studying online from offshore. You also need to think about what's most important to you. So have a look at those top 5 things that I've just put there and really think long and hard about what it is that you want from your experience. Next slide, please. Go beyond rankings. So for me, when I talk to prospective students, a lot of them tell me they want to go to an Ivy League school or they only want to attend the top 100 ranked university. But it's really important that you think outside of the rankings. And to do this, you should be looking at the university websites and more importantly, the faculty websites. So Christy, if you just hit next, just back one. Excellent. So this is just a screenshot I've taken from the Griffith Business School. So this is a faculty within the university. And here you can see that the business school put a large emphasis on our students being prepared for work. So they talk a lot here about work integrated learning, about internships, and how they support students to be better prepared for when they graduate. So really important that you're looking at that sort of top level university website, but then also drilling down and looking at the specific faculty websites. My next tip is also to look at the program details. Christy, if you just hit next. And here you can see an example of a specific program that's offered at Griffith University, which is our Bachelor of Environmental Science. And on this webpage, you can see all of the specific details, which are really important. So you can see that it's offered at 2 of our 5 campuses. You can see the duration is 3 years, full-time study. All international students in Australia must study full-time. And you can also see that it has flexible commencement dates. So you can commence in trimester 1 being March, trimester 2 being July, or trimester 3 being November. You can also see the entry requirements. You can drill down on those, and then you know what you're working towards in terms of what SAT score do I need to achieve to be eligible for this program. You can also find a great deal of information about career outcomes. So what sort of jobs do students who graduate from the Bachelor of Environmental Science go on to work in? The next point that I've got there is to speak with marketing staff. So it's really important, again, that you talk with people like myself and Patrick, who have a lot of knowledge about the university. But also, if you get the chance, you should try and speak with current students. And at Griffith University, we have recently implemented an option for prospective students where they can join our website and they can speak with current students from different countries. So you can see here 3 examples of 3 very different students from different regions of the world, but who are also studying very different programs. So we have someone studying, I believe it's biomedical sciences there. We have someone studying law. And so you can speak with them and get a student perspective on what it's like at studying at Griffith, which is just as important as talking with marketing staff, or as I've also put here, the program director. And they'll be able to talk to you about some really specific details about that program that you're looking at. And then my final point before I pass over to Patrick is that when you get there, make sure you go all in. So be sure to join all of the clubs and societies. Don't be shy, make the most of the unique opportunity to study overseas. And that's how you'll get the best out of this opportunity. So it's a very quick wrap up of my sort of top 5 things to look for in a university, and I'll pass over to Patrick.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. And I think, you know, where I'm going to come from in this is quite a similar place, really. And it's really interesting to hear your observations, Tom, because there's a lot of overlap between, you know, some of the things that I'm going to say as well. I mean, whilst the kind of perspective between a UK university and an Australian university might be slightly different, I think that, you know, a lot of those considerations will apply not just in the UK and Australia, but in other countries that you may be looking to study in as well. And the 5 that I've kind of listed here are perhaps a little obvious, but you know, do I think warrant a little bit of kind of drilling into them. So the first I've put here is what to study, and that might seem obvious, but it is, I think, quite sort of important to note the different styles of learning in different countries and different styles of higher education in different countries. So pre-pandemic and hopefully soon, I spent a lot of time in the US and would often speak to students who would say, well, I'm kind of interested in majoring in psychology, but maybe, you know, minoring in music and some journalism as well. And I have to admit, I don't know how it works in Australia, but certainly in the UK, we tend not to have this system of majors and minors. You know, it tends to be a little bit more focused. And so one of the things I generally say to American students is, you know, do give a bit more thought to kind of narrowing in on what you're really interested in. It doesn't mean you're limited completely to one sort of specific topic, but But actually, if psychology is what you're interested in, then, certainly if you come to the UK, it's likely you would be doing a degree in psychology for the whole of the time that you're with us. So do give that thought to what to study. Ranking and reputation, I think, I would agree with what Tom said, which is to, yes, think about ranking, think about reputation, think about the quality of the university you're interested in applying to, but don't get hugely hung up on, I have to go to the Ivy League, I have to go to the top ranked school in whichever country I'm looking at. There are certainly within the UK, everybody knows Oxford and Cambridge and the kind of elite tier of universities that are ranked perhaps just a little bit below them. And they are fantastic universities, don't get me wrong. But Cardiff, for example, is a member of the Russell Group, which is the sort of elite tier of 24 research-led universities in the UK. Along with Oxford, Cambridge, universities like Manchester, Glasgow, Birmingham, Bristol, Warwick, many others, we're part of that group because we're seen as being well ranked in terms of research and in terms of prestige. That doesn't mean, and I speak as someone who represents a Russell Group university, but it doesn't mean that only the Russell Group, they're the only good universities in the UK. Far from it. There are great universities outside the Russell Group as well. And you do have to sort of consider the overall profile of a university and the ranking of the subject that you're interested in. Again, looking at living in the student environment, I think Tom made some really good points about, do you want to live in a coastal city or a bigger city or a more rural environment? And again, in the UK, you have all those kind of options. And it is really important. I remember a long time ago when I was studying, I had a friend who, she ended up sort of leaving university. She went back to another university at a later point, but she thought she wanted a kind of more clean and green sort of country, sort of rural type experience, and she didn't, and she transferred to a larger sort of city-based campus and had a great time. So it is important to consider that really and think about really where you want to be. And do think about accreditation as well. It is important. What will a qualification get you? Do you need that? Do you need that chartered status, or do you need that particular accreditation to get you to a certain point on the career ladder? Or are you just looking for a more general qualification that will unlock doors in perhaps a wider array of careers? And that links with my final one that I've listed here, which is industrial placement. I guess industrials maybe geared towards sort of engineering or computer science or something like that, but could be applied to placements more broadly and more generally. And I'm sure this is the same for Tom. When I speak with students, it's one of the things I'm asked about the most is, what kind of career and work experience opportunities do you offer as part of your degree program? And lots of universities, including Cardiff, will offer some great opportunities for placements and careers. But it is a consideration. I studied again a long time ago, but I studied history and politics at Cardiff, and probably wouldn't have been that interested in taking a placement at that sort of stage in my life, and that's fine as well. There is that question of, are you looking for that kind of vocational type qualification that will require that sort of work experience, or something similar to what I studied, politics and history, which opened up doors in a whole range of potential career areas. So all things worth thinking about. If we could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. The other thing, and again, this builds a little bit on what Tom was saying, but is around sort of doing your research. And one of the things that we find that sort of students really do need to know a great deal about is how to look at a program and how to consider a course. And whilst it may seem obvious to say, go on our website and look at the course structure, it's perhaps something that students don't quite sort of dive into as deeply as they could. And there's a huge amount of useful information on university websites. So to take the example, I talked about the more focused degree structure in the UK. And, you know, for example, our journalism and communications BA at Cardiff, our Bachelor of Arts in this area, you know, from checking out our website, you can see the course modules or the classes. Module is probably a very UK specific term as well. And you can, you know, identify how many credits you will pick up for each of those, and actually sort of hover over them and just get more information on specifically what this module will teach you. And the great thing is, you know, whilst we don't have majors and minors, we do have that opportunity to build a program in a way that does interest you. So, you know, if you're a journalism student and you want to learn a bit more about data journalism or about media studies or media literacy, the history, I think we've got history of mass communication here. You know, you can sort of select and build that program based on classes that you're interested in. So, you know, do have a look at the programs you're interested in studying as well as the places, and try and pick, you know, in an ideal world, you would find the ideal program in the ideal location, and you may well do that. But if you don't, be prepared to trade the two sort of off each other a little bit and come to a decision that works for you. So moving on to the next slide. If possible. Oh, thank you. I think, yeah, I'm echoing my own point here in saying that you do have to do what's right for you. And that is really important. But do take advice as well. You know, I think, you know, yeah, do speak to people like me or people like Tom at the university. Do speak to our alumni or our student ambassadors who are, you know, always willing to answer any questions you may have. Speak to friends, you know, speak to anybody you know who has studied in the UK or in Australia or wherever it may be that you're looking to study, you know, and do take that advice. Speak to your parents, speak to your teachers, you know, anyone you may want to speak to, but do use that to come to a decision that is right for you ultimately, because, you know, it is your life, and, you know, this will be an important experience in your life. And I think as long as you're basing your decision on the right kind of information and the right kind of advice, you won't go far wrong, and, you know, you'll have some fantastic opportunities ahead of you, no matter where you may choose to study. Okay, so I think that was my final slide. So I'll finish up here, and I think we still have a little bit of time to take some questions. So any questions you may have.
That's right. Students, go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and if you have those, that way Patrick and Tom can answer the questions that you have asked. And if you have more questions, to go to their booth within the FAIR platform. If you are watching on Instagram or Facebook, we're so excited that you're here. Screenshot the URL that you see so that you can head over and register for the FAIR if you're not already a part of it. And students, if you have registered, head back to the booth that Tom and Patrick are in to look for Cardiff, and then also make sure to look for it dropped. Griffith as well. So Griffith and Cardiff are what you need to look for to talk to them, and they'll be there available to answer any questions. And I think for me, the most important thing you need to know is that they are here for you, and it is their job to answer those questions and to advocate on your behalf. And whatever questions you have about application and scholarship and dorms, they're here for you. So take this advantage of this time now to make sure and do that. So I don't think we have any questions, so we'll see you back at the FAIR. Tom and Patrick, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and insight, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Christy.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.